With about 12,700 nuclear warheads spread across 9 countries, the risk of a nuclear war is always present. Just look at what the Americans did to Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Now, I'm not pointing fingers in anyone's direction on who might or would kickstart this war, but if you look at your screen now, here's a chart of which countries hold the most nuclear power. Make from that what you will. Now, throughout this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do to survive a nuclear attack. And the first part of that is understanding what would happen if a nuclear explosion went off in your area. There are 6 stages to this, 6 stages that you need to keep in mind. The first one is a bright flash caused by a huge fireball, which can cause temporary or permanent blindness. So be careful, do not look at it. The next thing is a blast wave. This wave can take up to several seconds to reach you. So if you're safe from the blast, don't think you're safe from the blast wave. What we're talking about is you standing there, cars, trees and dogs flying through the air. Then we have a pulse of nuclear radiation. This will not turn you into the Hulk, but what it will do is kill you. So watch out for that one. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, we have fire and heat. Not only could the heat vaporize you in a second, but it could set a building on fire which you're hiding out in. If that wasn't enough to worry about, we also have an electromagnetic pulse which can disable devices for miles around. We're talking no phones, no TV, but even worse, imagine you're in your new Tesla electronic car, you're driving over a bridge when this happens, electromagnetic pulse wipes out the car, you end up swerving, off the bridge you go, guess what, you're dead. And the final stage of a nuclear explosion is the radioactive fallout. This is contaminated particles kicked up into the air by the blast, which can take up to 15 minutes to arrive even if you're far away. High altitude winds can make it sprinkle over hundreds of square miles. So even if you think you're completely safe from the blast, you might have radioactive rain falling above your head. So basically, in any situation, it's very unlikely that you would survive. But there is a chance. And if you do survive, you will need to know what to do next. You need to take action. So right now, you need to take note. Step 1 is shelter. If you receive a notification that an attack is coming, you should quickly seek shelter away from the blast and away from the radiation. This would preferably be a brick or concrete building, and even better if you can get underground. The further underground you can get, the safer from the blast and the safer from the radiation. But if you can't get underground, then stay in the middle of a building. A stairwell, that would work perfectly. Once the blast goes off, do not look at that fireball, it will blind you. Just don't do it, don't be a doofus. And remember, due to the electromagnetic pulse, nothing electric will work. So if you have a satellite radio or a weather radio, you'll want to keep this on you. After the blast, you're going to stay inside for as long as possible. The radiation will be strong. Create a barrier between yourself and the wall. Make that wall as thick as possible. Any windows, get those covered instantly. But if you're outside and you're far away from shelter, what do you do then? You want to lay flat on the ground, hands around your head, or take cover behind anything that will protect you. Don't move too hastily, because remember, that blast wave could take a while to pass you. Afterwards, you're going to find protection from the radiation as quickly as possible. Time is of the essence. If you can, cover your mouth with a cloth or a towel. This will limit the radiation. But your key here, your goal is to find shelter. Now, if you're in a situation where you know there's the perfect shelter, underground, basement, it's about 30 minutes walk from where I am now, or you have a shop next to your floor-to-ceiling windows, not the best situation. Which do you go for? Do you go into the shop, which is likely to get contaminated, or do you run to the shelter? Well, I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to go to the shop for at least one day and then run from the shelter. The radiation is at its strongest when the blast hits. so it's important for you to get away from it as quickly as possible. That means you hunkering down in a shop with your mouth covered for the next 24 hours. That's just what you're going to have to do. Then run your little self to the other shelter that you had in mind. Radioactive fallout can travel hundreds of miles, so even if you think you're safe from the blast, treat the air as if it's radioactive, because guess what? It probably is. Removing your outer layer of clothing can reduce the amount of contamination from fallout by up to 90%. So once you do find shelter, remove your clothes, get rid of them. Wash your hair and your skin with water, lots of soap and shampoo. Do not scratch your skin and do not use conditioner. Now is not the time for shiny hair. Conditioner will bind any radioactive material to your hair. Don't do it. Gently blow your nose, wash out your ears. Any area that contaminated dirt may be trapped. Eat and drink only packaged food items or items that were inside a building when the blast went off. As for how long you're going to be hunkering down, that's hard to say. If you have any contact with the outside world, i.e. a radio, wait for instructions on when to leave. If not, at the very least, you should stay put for 48 hours. But for me, I would do as long as I possibly could before attempting to venture out. After 48 hours, feel free to pop your head out, see how the world is looking, but stay in as long as you can. Eventually, you're going to have to leave to get food, right? But the longer you can stay down, the longer that radiation is going to calm itself. You know, I know you're curious. I know you're curious. You want to see what's out there. Is the people walking around? Is the mutant animals strolling the streets? You're going to want to see. Do not be a silly goose. Stay inside. But the most important thing in any nuclear attack is preparation. Things you can do right now, like figuring out where do you spend most of your time and what's going to be the best situation if a nuclear attack was to take place. I spend 90% of my time at home. I've got a basement, so I know the basement is going to be where I'm heading to. If you work in an office in the city, ask yourself which building has the thickest walls, which building has a basement, underground subways. That could be an option for you. You're also going to want a survival bag. That way, you don't have to go out if you don't need to go out. Keep a survival bag at home. Keep a survival bag in the boot of your car. But what do I put in my survival bag? You may ask, what are you going to need in a nuclear attack that's going to keep you safe? Well, don't you worry, because I've done a whole nother video on there. Look at it, it's on the screen right now. Check out that video. That's got everything you need to put in your survival bag. The survival bag is going to be the difference between you living and you dying. So I highly recommend putting one together, even if you just put a little cheap one together. At least you've done something. So in the unfortunate situation that a nuclear attack has taken place and you haven't been vaporized in an instant, you are now not so clueless on how to survive a nuclear